Item number 1 is call to order and roll call. Sean McAllister present.
Mike Milkey here.
Dan Stevens is present.
We are all here and accounted for. Welcome, everybody. Item number 2, consideration and action on minutes from previous meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Dan to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3, public input, limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anybody want to speak? Second call? Third call? Nobody wants to speak. All right, we're moving on. Item number 4, item Omni Center financials. Sabrina.
Thank you. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 1, is the Omni Center financials. Then if you go on to page 4 is the budget report. Just a couple things to note here. These aren't final for December of 2024 yet. We're getting close, but we just got our last room tax check this week. So I will still have to do a journal entry to record the fourth quarter room tax as well as the fourth quarter liquor sales. So there will be a slight increase to revenues for the Omni. Then if you go to page 6, for total expenditures, there shouldn't be much more in expenditures. And as you can see right now, we are showing a surplus in the Omni, and that will only grow. So good news for the Omni Center this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions or motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2024 general fund financials.
Second.
Omni Center, right?
Omni Center Finance.
Oh, yeah, I'm on 5. I'm going to retract that motion. I'm going to make a new motion that we approve the 2024 Omni Center financials.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by Dan, second by Mike to approve the 2024 Omni Center financials. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5. Now we're on to the general fund financials. Sabrina.
Thank you. Next in your packet, starting on page 7, is the balance sheet for the general fund, followed by, starting on page 10, the budget report for the general fund through December 31st, 2024. Again, we will have a couple more journal entries that will happen between now and my audit, which is the 3rd week of March. And we do have a couple things that we're waiting for. For example, one of them is related to our dog licenses. That comes from the county, so they'll write us a check and I'll book a receivable for that. So that's still to come for revenues. And then continuing on through the expenses. So if you take a look at page 24, we did go over budget for expenses. So you're going to see that later on in my presentation, what our plan is for that. So.
Thank you. Any questions, or I'll entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve the 2024 City of Onalaska General Fund financials.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Dan to approve the 2024 general fund financials. Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item B.
Thank you. So next in your packets, starting on page 25, this is like a 20-page document. What I'm doing here is I'm looking for authorization to approve a transfer of funds between the funds. So I'm looking at, if you take a look at page 25, for example, the first column is the account number, the title, original budget, current budget, fiscal activity, the variance between the actual fiscal activity and the total budget. And then the next line, that's the interdepartment transfer. So that's what you're approving here. We are transferring within the department. So for example, in Common Council, there's lines where you went over and lines where you did not. So this is really just moving dollars around within the department. And this, like I said, I could go through every single number if you want me to, but I'm guessing you do not. But I will take any questions that you have. The reason we do this is for the Government Accounting Standards Board and Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP, to get me ready for my financial statement audit in March.
Thank you. I'll take a motion.
I guess just so we can get it on the floor, I'll make a motion that we authorize the transfer of funds within each department to comply with GSAB, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles 2024.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike, to authorize the transfer of funds within each department as outlined in item number B. Discussion, questions?
Yeah, so Sabrina, I know we kind of just mentioned the variance of the 393,000. Could you just kind of walk us through between the transfer in and the transfer out and the variance? Just kind of like simplify how this is all reconciled?
So really the current total budget, which is the fourth line in, that was what was budgeted for 2024. The next line is the fiscal activity, which would tie to the budget report that was just presented prior. And then the variance really is just actually the variance straight from that report. And then the interdepartment transfer is transferring within each department. Then the fund transfers out and transfers in. That'll come as item 9, the transfer to and from various departments within the budget. So right now, all you're approving is within each department, if that makes sense.
Okay. And so would you say that everything is reconciled then, or do we still have something we need to address?
We will address that in item 9.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mike? No? Motion on the floor is to approve. No further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6, presentation from Brad. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here tonight. I'll walk through the presentation packet that's included in your materials. I believe it starts on page 47. So this presentation is in relation to the next resolution on your agenda, where you're considering a resolution that authorizes a narrow set of parameters that would allow for the issuance of debt. There's more moving parts in this debt issue than you've seen typically in prior issues, so I'll spend some time going through those. But ultimately, what we're requesting tonight, if you're comfortable with this plan, is to adopt the resolution, but also provide some guidance to me and Sabrina regarding the term of the debt that you would like to go forward with. So I'll walk through this and certainly answer any questions. Starting on the summary page, you'll see that this resolution this resolution would authorize issuance up to $8.1 million. The reason that number is larger than what you're typically used to seeing is it's funding really 2 major components. It's refinancing a short-term note that was issued last September for your community center for $4 million, and it's also funding the city's capital program. And that capital program has 2 components. The levy-supported component is $3,985,000, and then there's a smaller component for enterprise system, $410,000, and that's for water, sewer, and storm. So combining really those 3 components, the 2 larger components together, we're combining this into one debt issuance, one note, and that's for cost efficiencies and administrative efficiencies. It also helps with marketing the obligation to get more attractive interest rates than a few smaller notes would out in the market. I've detailed in the purpose section really 2 components of the CIP financing. You may remember that in prior years, the city's practice has been to issue a state trust fund loan. I think one year we did a bank loan, and that might have a 3 or 4, 5-year repayment. That was to fund the city's equipment and vehicle acquisitions. The reason we did that in the past is it was required under state statutes. The city's practice had been to issue bonds, and under state statute, bonding was not permitted for those types of capital acquisitions like equipment. State statute changed since we issued last spring, and now the city can issue GO notes rather than bonds, and notes can be issued for any public purpose. So instead of carving this out into another separate financing, we're pulling everything together under one umbrella, under one borrowing. But we're being very careful to still amortize and pay off those shorter-lived assets on the front end, so within 5 years. And that's what I've detailed on the top of this purpose section. I've identified the numbers here tie out to the CIP numbers of each of these projects, and those are repaid within 5 years of issuance. And then the longer-lived financing or projects here are paid out or repaid over a longer time period. So one of the decisions that we're asking for tonight is, what would you like for the final payment date? And there's two options we've laid out. One final payment date would be 2041, and the other is 2039. To give this a little historic context for you, the city's practice up until about 3 years ago had been to finance these types of obligations over 20 years. About 3-4 years ago, we started shortening those repayments. We started with 18 years. I think we had 17 last year. We're at a point now where you could get down to a 15-year repayment, which is that 2039 option. We also laid out the option, though, for a 2041 repayment. The reason for shortening is really to get more in line with the best practice of a city of your characteristics, your bond rating. Typically, I see cities with similar characteristics would have most of their debt repaid over a 10-year period, and then significant one-time facilities may be paid over a 15 to 20 years. So like your community center project, or a library project, or if you were to build a new city hall or something, that would be funded over a 20-year, but your typical CIP funded closer to a 10-year. So we're making strides towards shortening that overall repayment. Obviously, a shorter repayment is going to reduce the interest cost to the city. The difference in interest cost between the 39 and the 41 is about $340,000 in total. So it may not move the needle in any 1 year, but over that repayment period, it's significant dollars. So, and that gets into the structure I just talked about. The first interest payment would be scheduled for next April, and then interest would be semi-annual each April and October. And the estimated interest rate would be 4.23 on the 2039 maturity, or if we go out to 2041, the estimated interest rate's 4.32. The narrow set of parameters that would be in the resolution you're considering are on the bottom of the page. Not to exceed borrowing amount, the authority to finalize is delegated to the mayor and the clerk as long as the parameters are met. The not to exceed interest rate at 5%. We've got the maturity schedule, and then the resolution provides us the authority to shorten that maturity schedule. So regardless of which final payment you select, the same resolution applies. We don't need to make any amendments or changes to the resolution that you would be adopting. We would just want the direction. I've included a timeline on the next page. With your authorization tonight, this goes to the council next week, and they would take up the resolution. Bayard City staff would continue to take steps to bring this issue to market. So we'd prepare the official statement, we'd secure a bond rating, we'd market the notes to investors nationwide, and then we would finalize somewhere around March 6th. So with this resolution, we're not tied to one date to finalize interest rates. So if we get to March 6th and it's not a good day in the market, we can slide to March 7th, March 8th, and so on. But then we would expect that the issue would close on April 1st. Assuming we get everything locked in around March 6th, I'd present the results, the final results to council on March 11th, but that would be presentation only. There'd be no action required. It's information only. And then the last piece here is the payoff of the known anticipation note. Under this schedule, that payoff would occur on April 14th. So I've included detailed debt schedules for those who wanted to go through the numbers. I'm not necessarily going to walk through all of these. I can if you want, but there's really 3 separate components, though. It's the community center portion of the financing, the city's CIP portion, and then I isolate the enterprise portion, the $410,000, and I ran those 3 scenarios or those 3 plans for both scenarios, so a total of 6 financing plans. What you'll see on the The CIP portion is one of the targets that we've tried to meet, is to maintain your total debt service levy that's supported by, or the total debt service that's supported by tax levy, to keep that below $5 million annually. And that's inclusive of future financings. So we've got placeholders in here for future capital financings. No formal action on those tonight. Those are just for planning purposes. But under both scenarios, we are able to maintain the debt service, the levy-supported debt service below $5 million. So I can go into more detail or answer questions if you like.
So I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. When you were talking about the two different options, it sounded like we were at 423 on the longer term, and then it was 432 on the 2-year shorter. Did
I may have misspoke. It's 423 on the shorter.
Okay.
And 432 or 432 on the longer.
Okay, so yeah, and you may have said that, or, and then the second, if we are able in the long term to shift towards shorter amortization periods, I mean, generally speaking, does that follow suit with the market that a 15-year note would be priced more favorably than a 20 or 25?
In general, yeah, it is. And typically, the further out we have with the repayments, the higher the interest rates, which is reflected here, actually, in this analysis. That's not always the case, but it is always the case that the shorter the note, the lower the total interest cost, only because we're not paying the interest as long. Even if the rate's the same, you're paying it for a shorter period of time. So.
And then, depending on which option that we use, are the underwriting costs for generating the debt, does that differ, or is that the same?
No, the costs in this scenario, because the costs are really based on the size of the borrowing. So the underwriting costs, the legal fees, rating fees, all of
just a
those
flat
are the
percent.
same for either scenario.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So as you can probably, maybe some of you picked up on, since my time here, we have started going away from the 20-year borrowing and slowly bringing that down. That has been both me and Brad through discussions. So I do support the 15-year bonding, or the 15-year note.
Cool. Thank you. Do you need us to do anything with item number 6, or is that just an FYI, and then we'll go into 7 and do the approvals from there? Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions for Brad while he's here? Mike, you got anything? Or Diane, you got anything?
I talked to Sabrina a little bit about this too, and just to get a little bit more context, and I appreciate you, Brad, giving me more, especially like the $340,000 difference makes a big difference, and to hear our finance director give us the support and confidence in going with the shorter term, it kind of makes me feel the same way, so I appreciate both of you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, that was item number 6. Item number 7 is approval of resolution 4-2025.
So this is the resolution for us to move forward with the bonding. As Brad stated, this would give us some flexibility on the specific date. It would come forward. Brad would present that to myself, and then I would have the mayor and Joanne sign off on the actual final bid of the bond, of the note.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 4-2025, authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale not to exceed $8,100,000 in general obligation promissory notes, and then opting towards the shorter option.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike, to approve the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale not to exceed $8,100,000 general obligation promissory notes and the shorter amortization schedule. Any further discussion?
No, I was just curious if we had to notate that, but like you did, so.
Well, we did,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I didn't know, I wasn't sure, but yeah.
Absolutely.
we could talk about it more. I mean, I agree with the opting towards the shorter amount. In this case, it's a larger bond, so the interest savings, the 300 plus thousand, over that long period of time, it doesn't actually, it's, I don't want to say it's nothing, but it's, it adds up. But then if you do that every year, because we'll have new borrowings on new CIPs, And it's probably not going to be an $8 million bond because we have this one-off with the community center. But if we commit to doing that over time, the interest savings to the city taxpayers will be substantial, and we can use those funds towards other needs. So as long as Sabrina is confident that we can afford the higher debt payment to pay that off quicker, then I think that should be a strategy that the city adopts.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And our bond rating is already at like the highest we can go, right? So I mean,
Not
this
quite.
is
Not the highest.
You could,
The highest for our size.
the highest for our local municipality.
I don't know, last year on the bond rating call, the representative that we talked to, she said that if we continue to get our, like the actual term of our notes down and like our reserves stayed where they were, that it's possible that we could go to an AA1.
Okay, so I mean, this is only going to be something contributing to that as well.
Correct.
Okay.
And hopefully Brad will put a good word in for us. Moody's.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion on the floor is to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 8, Resolution 5-2025.
All right, thank you. So next in your packets on page 79, I'm trying to get there on the screen too, so give me one second. All right, so this resolution is to transfer money from the general fund to the special revenue fund equipment replacement fund of $500,000 due to surplus revenues that we had in the 2024 general fund operating budget. What I'm asking for is to transfer $500,000 to fund the purchase of the new fire truck.
I will move to approve Resolution 5-2025 to transfer from the 2024 general fund budget to the special revenue fund, to the special revenue fund equipment replacement fund.
Second?
Motion by Mike, second by Dan, to approve Resolution 5-2025 to transfer from the 2024 general fund budget to the special revenue fund. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 9, Resolution 6-2025. 6-5, sorry. What am I talking?
All right, thank you. So this goes back to Alder Stevens' question regarding the, like, not necessarily the deficit, but the overage in regards to expenses in the general fund. So what this resolution is doing is now I'm saying, so there's some departments who went under their total budget for the year and some that went over. So what I'm doing here is moving dollars from departments who went under budget to departments who went over budget. And then I'm also asking that we increase interest income account to offset the difference. So that's what I'm doing in this resolution.
Thank you.
It does kind of, it correlates with that 20-page reconciliation. It's just the last 2 lines where I'm doing transfers in and out. Some of the reason why there was the overage in expenses were the 2 incentive payouts, contractual services were up quite a bit in some departments, which we tried to budget. I know I did in my finance department's budget. I tried to increase that for 2025 to get closer to the budgeted amount. But that's kind of where we're at.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 6-2025, transferring to and from various departments in the 2024 general fund budget.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike, to approve Resolution 6-2025 to transfer to and from various departments in the 2024 general fund budget. Any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Chair. Sabrina, this is something that often happens like year to year, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, and it's nice that we had a great, brought in some great interest revenue as well.
Right, yep. And this is part of the reason why we do budget so conservatively for revenues is if we have a situation where we do go over in expenses, which we did this year. Had we, came like spot on for revenues, then we would just have a deficit, right? So I know you guys know I'm very conservative and I harp that all the time, but that's part of the reason why is for situations where we would go over. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, motion on the floor is to approve. Any further discussion or questions? See none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 10, Resolution 7-2025.
Thank you. So next in your packet on page 82 is a resolution to transfer from the general fund budget to the special revenue fund, special projects. This is for the DARE program. It's something that, I think I looked back to 2016, and it seems like it's something that we do every single year to help support the DARE program. A lot of communities don't even have a DARE program anymore. I know when I was in high school, which was many moons ago, we had a program, but now that school does not. So it's really great that we're able to continue the program.
I don't know whose turn it is, mine or yours.
That's it? Yeah. I'll move to approve Resolution 7-2025 to transfer from the 2024 general fund to the special revenue fund for special projects, specifically the DARE project.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mike, second by Dan, to approve Resolution 7-2025 to transfer from the 2024 general fund balance to the special revenue fund for the DARE program. Any further discussion? Mike?
Just have a quick comment. Thank you, Chair. I know my kids are in the public schools here and really get a lot out of this. So to be able to continue this program is great. I still remember from when I was in school, but it is fun to see the kids come home and talk about it. So it does go a long ways. So I just want to make that comment. So thank you.
Thank you.
Having the police keep a closer eye on your kids can only be a good thing.
That's a
Especially
positive
mine.
thing. All right, motion on the floor is to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11, Resolution 8-2025.
All right, thank you. So next in your packets is Resolution 8-2025. This is to transfer money from the general fund budget to the debt service fund. So we did go over in revenues. We've talked about that. We went over in expenses, but one of the things that City Administrator Niemeyer and I discussed was paying off our short-term borrowing. So by transferring the $600,000, we'd be able to pay off our short-term debt borrowing from the state trust fund loan, which, as you can remember, was kind of a higher interest rate. It was at 6%. By doing this and paying this off early, it would save us about $82,000, and it would take that debt off our books. So by having a good year with interest income and then our building permits, those were some of the revenues that we went over from what we budgeted. We're able to give some money to equipment replacement for that fire truck, and then if you approve it, pay off the debt service for short-term borrowing.
Those are all good things, so I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 8-2025, transferring from the 2024 general fund budget to the debt service fund.
I'll second this one.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike, to approve Resolution 8-2025 to transfer from the 2024 general fund budget to the debt service fund. Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 12.
If I can go back, I just had a question on that. So will we have any other short-term state trust fund debt after that that will clear it out completely?
It'll completely clear it out, and the way the state statutes have changed, as in this year when we're doing promissory notes, we won't ever, unless the state statute would change, have to go back to short-term borrowing.
Potentially done with short-term debt forever with
Potentially.
that venue, okay. Yay.
Cool. Item number 12.
All right, thank you. So next in your packets, I wrote a memo just to kind of summarize the three memos that are behind this. These are pretty standard from year to year, especially it seems the past couple of years where it's just I think it's hard to get, like, a lot of things are on back order and projects are kind of bleeding into multiple years. So the first one listed is for the fire department facilities and staffing study that was approved, I think the middle of the year of 2024. They are almost fully complete with that, and we will have one more bill coming for that. So I'm asking that we reserve or designate funds in the equipment replacement fund to pay for that, because that wouldn't be something that would normally be transferred over. And then in regards to information technology, we did in 2024, again, mid-year, approve some additional dollars for IT to move forward with multi-factor authentication and Microsoft 365. And again, that project's just kind of bleeding into 2025. So to reserve some of those funds, these are dollars that were budgeted in 2024 that just didn't get fully spent in equipment replacement. And then lastly, the wayfinding signage, they are working on finishing up that project. So likely within, I think Amanda said, within the next couple of months, that should be finalized as well.
Are you looking for a motion to approve that?
Yeah, so I'm just looking for a motion for all three of these. I think you could do it all in one motion on what I'm looking for.
I'll do it as an omnibus here. So I'll move that we approve and designate funds in the equipment replacement fund in the amount of $4,896.45 for the fire department and staffing study, which is account 207-34126, and $46,836.74 for the IT projects in account number 207-34111, and $23,172 for City Hall wayfinding signage in the account number of 207-34231. And that is my motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike to approve and designate the funds in the equipment replacement fund as outlined in Sabrina's memo, item number 12.
You have to repeat everything that I said.
Oh, no. Any further discussions, Mike?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, Sabrina. I know Joe's not here, but for his portion of this, or I should say for the IT portion of this, that 46,000, is that when this is done, that's done for the MFA and all of that? Or do we know?
I'm going to defer to Jared.
Yeah, so they're working on the MFA part of it, and the part of that's the 365, getting that rolled out, and that wasn't completed in the. It's going to take all of 25 actually to get that completed, so it's not going to be just this spring. It's going to be all year. But I know in talking to Joe, he has stated he needs all that, especially for the 365, and I think Rick might even have a little.
Yeah, correct, yes, he's going to need it. If you recall, this is something where insurance companies are starting to require that we have the MFA in place, and in order to do it, ideally, the 365. So I was just switched over this week, and while it's a wonderful tool, it takes a little getting used to, because it's not exactly what I'm used to, but it is something that we need to have done, and so yeah. Once he is complete with it, the implementation costs, I believe, will be done. There may be some costs that will work into his budget in regards to the yearly costs that we need for licensing and that kind of a thing. So,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. Motion on the floor is to approve. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 13.
All right, so next in your packets on page 88, this is to designate funds for outstanding assessments. So we do still have 2 big box retail stores and a senior living facility in multi-year litigation regarding their assessments. There also is a suit that came forward from Mayo Clinic. That's in its 2nd year. We have in the past designated funds to supplement litigation costs, and if we have to pay anything back to because they are paying their taxes, they're just saying that they are not they're unlawful. So we, at that point, would have to potentially pay the property tax owners back if they would win. So since this is continuing to go on, we are recommending that we set aside an additional $100,000 to illegal assessments, just as a precaution. If these lawsuits were to end and we wouldn't have to pay anything back, that money then I would come forward and transfer that into just general fund undesignated funds. So it's staying in the general fund, we're just setting it aside in case we have to pay it out.
So we're moving money from the general fund to 103,417,
Yes,
and that's, okay.
like an undesignated fund balance into that fund balance.
Okay, you want to get that one, Skippy?
I will move to approve the designation of the funds from outstanding assessments, specifically designating $100,000 in account 100-34217 for the legal assessments as a precautionary action.
Second?
Motion by Mike, second by Dan, to designate funds for the outstanding assessment, specifically $100,000 as outlined in the memo and item number 13. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. 14.
All right, thank you. So in regards to, again, the result of the strong investments and some of the building permit revenue and some of the other revenues that did go over what we budgeted, myself and Rick sat down kind of to put this whole package together for you. We're recommending that $100,000 be reserved in the general fund to temporarily amend policy 3.03 regarding insurance benefits to, again, allow the city to pay up to 88% for 7 months. This would cover that cost for employees. That would begin in either June or July. If it is approved that we can designate these dollars, we would come forward with a memo and a proposal as we did last year.
I'll entertain a motion.
That seems like it's, I mean, that's a not insubstantial difference in the benefit, but I'm willing to make the motion, but I'm just wondering if we should put it on non-consent so council can have a stab at it next week. How do we want to phrase this? So I'll make a motion that we move from the general fund $100,000 to account 100-34142 in the reserve fund balance for the purpose of reserve funds for employee retention.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike, to approve the reserve funds for employee retention as outlined in item number 14. Any further discussion, Mike?
Yeah, so obviously this feels like a good faith thing to all of our employees at City Hall, which I would love to do. Just want to make sure, this is something that we're doing because we have the funds to do it. It's not something that we can do every year. But, for this time being, obviously, I think we should do this. Again, more of a good faith to our employees here and the staff. And I guess that's my 2 cents.
I would agree. Thank you. Diane, please.
Thank you, Chair. So if I may ask our Finance Director, Sabrina, and I just thought of this, or I would have asked you earlier, and I'd be fine waiting for an answer if you don't have one until council. But, so we had surplus funds for 2024. And then I know we've done where you swap, I think it was 5B, where you do the authorization to transfer funds within to make it all balance. And then, so the fire truck, 500,000 of the surplus, which would have gone into the reserve fund, we're directing to the fire truck. Is that right?
Any surplus revenues would have gone straight to the general fund undesignated reserves.
Undesignated reserves, thank you.
Correct.
So the fire truck, you're looking at just taking the $500,000 and taking that out of the undesignated reserves and putting it for the fire truck, correct?
Correct.
And then the legal assessments, $100,000 is also coming from, and also proposed the $100,000 for insurance.
And
What-
then the additional 600,000 to pay for short-term borrowing.
Oh, yes, which I'm really happy about. So my question is this: if all of this passes tonight and then it passes at council Tuesday night, do you have, you'll have a dollar amount which will end up actually being added to the undesignated reserve fund?
Yes,
That's the number I'm looking for.
yes.
Okay. Fine until Tuesday, but I didn't want to ask you Tuesday night.
Yeah, so there will be some additional journal entries that have to be done between now and my financial statement audit, and a couple more revenues that will trickle in, but it'll likely be under 100,000. That would be added to the general fund reserves.
Just 100,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Likely under 100,000.
We'll say circa 100,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess this is just kind of a cautionary tale. I mean, when you can do something nice for the employees, that's a good thing. But when people look at their wages and I believe also their benefits, there's, in economics, it's called kind of like a stickiness. So like, once you go up, that's great for now, but if we're not able to do that in the future, we could create a morale problem where if that benefit is no longer available, then people are like, hey, what, we're getting, city doesn't care about us. And that's not really the case. So my preference would be if they could almost kind of segregate that in payroll so it kind of shows up as like a special retention credit or something to the effect that it's not just, you get a better deal this year and next year it's probably going to be worse. So that's just food for thought, and that's part of why I wanted to kick that to council next week, is just so we can really kind of weigh. Sometimes there's consequences of doing something that is intended to help people. So that's just my thought process. Thank you, Chair.
Sure, I just wanted to add a couple of things as well, too. And as you remember, we did do this last year because we were in a similar type of a situation. Over the past year, we have had a number of conversations regarding recruitment and retention of staff and the things that we can do. And council did task us with looking at different options that maybe were not directly related to wages, in other words, raises or certain COLA, percentage of COLA. This is one of those areas where we can do something that's outside of the scope. It's a finite, definite period of time. So there is a beginning and an ending date where it's not going to, so as of January 1st, it'll go back up to whatever the rates are at that point in time. So this is just another piece that we can use, another tool, I guess we can use in regards to when it comes to recruitment and retention tools to have our staff, to help our staff. And so, while I understand exactly what you are saying in regards to, is this an expectation? When this was rolled out last year after approval by council, we did a lengthy memo to all staff in regards to laying out exactly what it meant. We were very clear with them when we did roll it out that this was, a one-time situation. We were fortunate to be in a situation we were, and that they knew it was going to end. So again, it was all in the presentation in regards to making sure staff understood that it was a short-term deal. But again, I understand and take the comments that you're stating here this evening, but I just kind of wanted to add a couple of things to it as well.
If this gets approved next week, could we do that again?
Correct, yes. Yep, absolutely. We'll come forward with a detailed memo, a resolution, all that information, correct?
Cool. Any other questions? I got one. Yeah, Mike.
Sabrina, in your network of other finance directors, do other cities do this? Are we kind of unique to this? Just curious.
Yes, others do. The county does insurance holidays all the time. Granted, they're self-funded, but they will do where the employees don't pay at all for like a few months out of the year. So it is common at some municipalities. I know the county really well because I worked there. And when I was at Viterbo as well, like they're also self-funded, so they would do this. I don't know, like comparing to, I don't know if Trempealeau County or the city of La Crosse did this. Amy could.
City of La Crosse was self-funded. In Trempealeau County, they did the max up to 88%.
Cool. Yeah, I just was curious, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Now I'm picturing a network of finance directors. It's like a secret club,
It is.
decoder rings and everything.
I mean, she knows people.
All right, the motion on the floor is to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 15, Gunderson Parking Ramp.
All right. So lastly, for my part of the meeting, I'm going to go take a long break here, is on page 90 is the Gunderson Lutheran parking ramp cost through the fourth quarter, and then showing the annual cost. Again, also included, they included the monthly average of number of cars here as well, which is good information to have. The ramp definitely does get used, and the city does pay $1,250 quarterly for the operating costs. You can see that here on the memo, and then Stony Creek pays a portion to Gunderson as well.
Thank you. Do you need a motion to approve this?
Yes.
I'll move to approve the Gunderson Health Systems parking ramp, fourth quarter and annual 2024 numbers. Place on file.
Second?
Motion by Mike, second by Dan to approve the Gunderson Health System parking ramp annual fourth quarter results for 2024. Any further discussions? Yep, Dan?
I'm sure this question gets asked like 4 times a year, but when does our agreement regarding the ramp expire?
Sorry, I
should
really
have it
was done.
memorized.
I muted myself. 2028.
2020, okay, thank you.
2028. Motion on the floor is to approve. Any further discussion? See none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sabrina. Amy, welcome to the fun. Item 16.
Human Resources report for January, not a whole lot in terms of recruitment. We've got one vacancy in the month of January that we have since filled in February. We have been busy posting a number of our seasonal job postings. We've got about 10 out there and about another 10 to go. So we're busy making those reports right now.
Thank you. Any questions? Nope. Item number 17.
All right, I will try to be speedy. This is the Human Resources Annual Report for 2024. As you can see on the first page, the number of areas that Human Resources is responsible for. I think our big wins for 2024, we added a Human Resources Administrative Support member. Sarah Beekell had joined our team. We also added some new employee benefits and then started continuing the digitation of a number of past records. We've been part of a number of other employee committees and groups throughout the year as well. I'm going to just touch upon a few of these areas. Feel free if you've got questions or you want more detail, I'm happy to provide. But some of the more notable statistics in the areas of recruitment and staffing, our turnover rate is down for 2024. We went from 14% to 7.6%, which is good news. The bad news is that it's all within the police and fire department. So that was a very tough year on both of those departments in terms of turnover. We did fill a number of 21 regular positions for the year. We had a number of carryovers from the previous year that we had filled. And then all in all, with our seasonal hires, we had 137 new hires for the year of 2024. We did see a notable drop in the number of applications that we are receiving for our positions. And again, that is just part of what we are experiencing, what everyone is experiencing at this point in time. Interesting with our workforce, we have 50% of our regular workforce has been with the city 5 years or less, and 25% are eligible to retire in 2025. So again, we're going to continue to see challenges in terms of recruitment and maintaining staffing levels as we go forward. Our next area in compensation and benefit administration. So Human Resources does individually communicate all of our wage and benefit changes to employees throughout the year, whether that's open enrollment or cost of living, qualifying events, step increases, and so on throughout the year. So that generates a lot of work for Human Resources in that regard. And as I mentioned earlier, we did have some added benefits in 2024. So those were vision insurance, pet insurance, and then the income continuation insurance. And those were selected and considered due to a previous employee benefit survey that we conducted in the previous year. So those were benefits that were mentioned in that survey. And in that same survey, it did identify that employees' top need was fitness-related benefits. So that is something that I think that our city administrator is still working on in terms of providing something in regard to a fitness-related benefit for employees. And our top valued employee benefit continues to be health insurance, is our most valued employee benefit by employees. Moving on to our Employee Assistance Program, our EAP, we did see that utilization was up for the year in 2024. Also, just to note that HR does not know who uses EAP or why they use EAP. We simply maintain the contract and then get that utilization rate for the year. So that continues to be a free and confidential service that's very important for our employees. The next areas, we have leave administration, performance management, employee labor relations, policy and procedure administration, all pretty standard for the year in those areas. So I would like to move forward to the training and development section. Here there was a big push in 2024 for citywide training. There was a number of professional development opportunities for staff citywide, including our Staff Success Day. We had our second annual Staff Success Day. That's a very important day for the city staff to gather as a team. We have already started the planning process for our next one, and we hope that to be in our new community center. So those changes are already underway. In terms of safety and risk management, HR continues to process workers' compensation claims for the city and lead the quarterly safety committee meetings. So with workers' compensation, the city had a rating or has a rating, workers' compensation rating or our experience modification factor. It's a rating of 0.93. And that rating is determined by the state, by the Wisconsin Compensation Rating Bureau. It compares our losses in workers' compensation claims to the average or expected losses of others in similar businesses as ours. So if those claims are better than average, it results in a credit for us, and that's why that is important for us. Because our rating is below a 1, it equates to significant workers' compensation premium savings to the city. And then lastly, just a quick mention of our listed number of reporting and compliance areas that HR handles for the city. So again, just a quick summary. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions or anything that they'd like to add or ask. I'm certainly available to answer.
Wow, you covered it beautifully. Thank you.
He's always very concise and leaves us without having to ask questions.
No, thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, I think that's it. Number 18, we have no further business.
I will move to adjourn.
Do you want me to
I
second
like
it?
it here. I'm going to stay all night.
I'll second it, fine. Motion by Mike, second by me to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Good night.